Now, let all the weight of the day fall gently away from your shoulders. Let go of the noise of the world you know just for tonight. Take one slow breath in and let it go, slower still. Imagine time itself beginning to drift backward gently, like a tide pulling out to sea. The centuries fall away, the buildings fall away, the bright lights of your own world fall quietly away. You find yourself standing in a cool, clear summer night in ancient Athens. Beneath your feet, warm marble still holds the last soft heat of the day's sun. Above you, the sky is a deep, quiet blue, deeper than any sky you remember. A thin crescent moon hangs low over the water, turning the distant sea to soft silver. Somewhere nearby, from within a walled courtyard, comes a low, steady, wooden sound. It is a loom, worked patiently by unseen hands, weaving pale linen thread by thread. The air around you smells faintly of crushed olive leaves, and something warmer beneath it, dried lavender resting in a clay bowl. A small oil lamp burns somewhere close, its scent mixing softly with beeswax and warm stone. Tonight, you are welcomed quietly into the private, unhurried world of an ancient household, an Oikos. Beyond thick plastered walls, in rooms where a single flame moves gently across the wall, you will witness the softest, most ordinary moments of love, of marriage, and of daily life. There is nothing you need to do here, nothing to remember, nothing to hold on to. Simply let your eyes close now fully, gently, and let this quiet, ancient night carry you toward a deep, unbroken sleep. You do not need to understand everything you hear tonight, only to rest inside it. Somewhere in the dark, a mother is humming a tune older than any word for it. Let that low, wordless sound be the last thread pulling you gently down into sleep. Part 1. The Oikos, a home at rest. Chapter 1. A city between two mountains. Picture yourself walking slowly down a narrow lane, the stones beneath you still faintly warm. Small whitewashed homes rise on either side, their walls catching the last soft gold of a fading sun. This is Athens, long before its name traveled far beyond its own quiet hills. At the base of a high, pale rock, modest houses gather close together, sharing walls, sharing shade, sharing the low hum of evening. A spring nearby gives fresh, cool water, drawn each morning by women carrying tall clay jars balanced on their shoulders. You can almost hear them now, their sandals soft against the stone, their voices low and unhurried in the early light. Every household keeps a small hearth burning through the night, its flame believed to hold something of the family's own quiet spirit. Generations ago, these scattered homes grew slowly into narrow streets, then into this familiar, breathing town. Neighbors know one another by name, by trade, and by the particular, unmistakable sound of their footsteps. Near the base of the rock, a small market gathers each morning, filled with the easy, familiar rhythm of quiet bargaining. Fishermen bring their catch up from the harbor, their baskets damp and gleaming in the early light. Farmers arrive from the surrounding hills, carrying baskets heavy with olives, figs, and pale golden grain. Before any temple ever crowned that high rock above the city, ordinary life had already, quietly, taken root below it. It is a place of tired hands, warm bread, and long, unhurried evenings spent close beside one another. This humble, unremarkable beginning holds the true, softly beating heart of everything that would come after. Let this image settle now, gently. A small city cupped between two dark and silent mountains. Somewhere below, in one of those low, whitewashed homes, a single lamp is just now being lit. Let us walk toward it now slowly, and let ourselves inside. A dog stirs briefly near a doorway, then settles again into sleep, unbothered by our quiet passing. Somewhere above, a shutter creaks softly in the evening breeze, then falls still once more. Chapter 2: The Oikos and the Quiet Rhythm of Home. Picture the home now closer, its plastered walls pale in the fading light. This particular household belongs to a family of quiet wealth, landowners whose olive groves stretch across the hills of Attica, and whose name is known gently among the merchants of the harbor. Their home in the city reflects this steady prosperity, though never loudly, never with excess, only with a certain unhurried comfort. The floors here are laid with smooth, pale stone, cool beneath bare feet, even in the warmest hours of the afternoon. Marble columns, modest but finely cut, frame the entrance to the main hall, catching the low evening light along their pale, polished edges. Fine woven hangings soften the walls of the inner rooms, their colors muted, their patterns simple, chosen for comfort rather than display. At its center lies a small open courtyard, roofless, open to the wide evening sky above. An old olive tree grows there, its silver leaves trembling faintly in the cooling air. This is the Oikos, the household, the quiet center of an entire family's world. Rooms open onto this shared courtyard, offering morning light, soft air, and space for the day's slow labor. By day, the household stirs early, gentle movement crossing the courtyard stones with the first gray light. The head of the household holds formal authority, yet daily life turns, hour by hour, on the steady hands of his wife. She oversees the meals, the stored oil and grain, and the quiet unfolding education of her younger children. Beneath the shade of that old olive tree, she sits most mornings before her loom, her hands moving in a rhythm older than memory. Listen closely now to the low, wooden sound of the loom, a soft, steady knock again and again and again. Pale linen thread passes slowly between her fingers, catching faint gold where the morning light finds it. This sound, more than any other, is the true, quiet heartbeat of a Greek home. Slaves, where a family could afford them, share fully in this daily rhythm, their lives woven closely into the household's own routine. Grandparents often live nearby, offering patience, memory, and a second, steadier pair of hands. Children move easily between family members, absorbing small lessons in manners simply by watching, simply by being near. Privacy, in the way we imagine it today, barely exists within these close, familiar walls. And yet, even here, small, tender moments still find their own quiet corner of the day. A husband and wife might sit together in this courtyard as evening slowly gathers around them. They share a simple meal, speaking in low, familiar voices about the small, unremarkable events of the day. Nearby, a lamp flickers gently against pale plaster, and a cat curls itself into the last warmth near the hearth. Water must be carried, bread must be baked, children must be fed day after quiet, unremarkable day. This ordinary rhythm, repeated endlessly, forms the true, soft foundation of an entire Greek family's life. Before we speak of philosophy or of distant lands, we must first understand this humble daily devotion. Chapter 3. The Weaver's Rhythm. Come closer now into the shaded corner of the courtyard where the loom stands quietly against the wall. A wife sits before it, her spine straight, her hands moving in a rhythm she no longer needs to think about. Listen to the sound it makes, a low wooden knock, steady and unhurried like a slow and patient heartbeat. Knock, and pause, and knock again, the rhythm settling into something almost like breathing. Threads of pale linen stretch vertically before her, taut and silver in the afternoon light. Her fingers pass a wooden shuttle between them, back and forth, weaving one soft thread at a time. Each pass adds only the smallest sliver of new cloth, barely visible, barely noticeable, and yet it slowly grows. The wool beneath her fingers is soft, slightly rough, warm from the sun that has settled across her lap. Nearby, a small basket holds carded wool, clouds of pale gray and cream waiting patiently for their turn. She dips her fingers occasionally into a small dish of oil, smoothing the fibers before they meet the loom. The scent rises gently, warm and faintly sweet, mixing with the dust and dry wood of the courtyard. A daughter sits nearby, watching closely, her own small hands already learning to mimic the motion. She will not master it today or even this year, but she is learning thread by careful thread. This weaving will become a blanket or a tunic or perhaps a small gift for someone dearly loved. For now, it is simply this: a slow, repeating motion and the low wooden knock of patient hands. Outside, the sounds of the street fade slightly, softened by distance, softened by the rhythm of the loom. Time moves differently here, measured not by hours, but by rows of thread, slowly, steadily completed. There is no need to hurry this work. The loom does not rush, and neither does she. Let this same unhurried rhythm settle now within you. Knock and pause and knock again, slow and steady. Let your own breathing find that same patient tempo, in and out and in again, gently repeating. The cloth will be finished eventually, though tonight only the rhythm matters. Chapter 4. The Gynaeceum, a world kept softly apart. Deeper within the home, past the open courtyard, lies a smaller, quieter set of rooms. This is the Gynaeceum, the part of the house kept gently apart, reserved mostly for the women and children of the family. Here, the light falls differently, filtered softly through small high windows facing an inner wall. Baskets of wool sit stacked along one side, waiting patiently for the next day's slow, careful weaving. A cradle rests in the corner, its wood worn smooth by generations of small, restless hands. In this quiet space, a mother spends most of her waking hours, surrounded by daughters, nieces, and the low murmur of women's voices. Here, too, the household's youngest children are raised, fed, bathed, and gently rocked toward sleep. In the evenings, when the men have gathered elsewhere in the home, this room grows softer still, lit by a single low flame. It is here, in this hushed and private world, that the oldest stories are passed quietly from mother to daughter. A grandmother might lower her voice to almost nothing, leaning close, describing a goddess who once walked softly through moonlit groves. Children lie curled nearby, half asleep already, listening more to the low, steady rhythm of the voice than to its actual words. These stories rarely needed an ending. The listener was usually asleep long before the tale itself was finished. This gentle, half-hidden world rarely appears in the grander histories written by men. Yet it was here, in these quiet inner rooms, that so much of Greek family life truly unfolded. Laughter lived here, and worry, and long, unhurried afternoons spent simply being close to one another. If these old walls could speak, they would likely whisper only of small, ordinary tenderness. Let that image rest with you now, a soft lamp, a low voice and children drifting slowly toward sleep. Chapter 5. Childhood Beneath the Greek Sky. In ancient Greece, a birth was met with quiet hope and a soft, careful kind of watchfulness. This held true in every household, whether a modest fisherman's cottage or the marble halls of a wealthy merchant family. On the 5th day, a small household ceremony called the amphidromia welcomed the newborn gently into the family. The father carried the infant slowly around the hearth fire, presenting the small, sleeping child to the household's own protective spirits. On the 10th day, the child received its name, chosen with care, often honoring a grandparent or a beloved ancestor. Small clay toys have survived from this distant time: dolls, carved animals, and little wheeled carts pulled gently along on a string. Children played in courtyards and narrow lanes, loosely watched by an older sibling, a household slave, or a nearby aunt. Knuckle bones, small smooth bones tossed and caught in simple games, were a favorite pastime in nearly every household. As children grew, small chores slowly folded themselves into the ordinary shape of each day. Girls learned early to spin wool, to fetch water, and to help prepare the family's simple evening meal. Boys, once old enough, were often placed gently under the care of a pedagogos, a trusted household slave who guided their early years. He walked them each morning to school, corrected their manners, and quietly shaped much of their early character. Storytelling filled many Greek childhoods, tales of gods, heroes, and clever animals shared softly by firelight in the evening. Grandparents told these old stories slowly, savoring the familiar pauses their listeners had long since learned to expect. Discipline certainly existed, yet many surviving accounts describe real warmth between parents and their small children. A father might carry a sleepy child home from an evening gathering, the small body limp and trusting against his shoulder. These small, human details remind us that Greek families loved deeply, in ways that still feel close and familiar. Beneath the formal shape of their world, childhood remained tender, curious, and quietly precious. A grandmother might rock a fussy infant for an hour, humming the same 3 notes again and again, patient and unhurried. Older children learned to soften their voices around a sleeping baby, a small, early lesson in quiet consideration for others. Chapter 6. Learning to Read, Learning to Live. Education in ancient Greece varied gently depending on a family's means and the customs of their particular city. In many Greek cities, boys from families of modest means began attending a small private school around the age of 7. Lessons began early, guided by soft lamplight before the sun had fully risen above the rooftops. Students practiced their letters on wax tablets, smoothing the surface clean whenever they needed to begin again. Reading lessons often drew from old stories of gods and heroes, chosen gently for the simple lessons hidden inside them. Music formed an essential part of a boy's education, taught patiently on the lyre by a careful, unhurried instructor. Physical training took place at the palestra, a modest open space where boys learned running, wrestling, and simple discipline. A teacher there guided their movements calmly, more concerned with steady growth than with any early perfection. Girls in most Greek cities were educated mainly at home, guided gently by their mothers in the quiet skills of running a household. They learned to weave, to manage stores of oil and grain, and to prepare the family's simple daily meals. Let us imagine softly one particular boy's very first morning at such a school. His pedagogos wakes him early, helping him dress in a simple woolen tunic still warm from sleep. His mother packs a small satchel, a wax tablet, a stylus, and a modest morning meal wrapped carefully in soft cloth. Together they walk through streets still soft with early light, the older slave's hand resting lightly on the boy's shoulder. Other children wait outside the teacher's door, some confident, others clearly nervous, much like him. The teacher greets them calmly, guiding each child toward a low wooden bench near the light of a small window. He traces his letters slowly, his tongue pressed slightly in careful, quiet concentration. By the day's end, his hand aches faintly, though a small private pride outweighs the mild discomfort entirely. Learning, whether formal or simply absorbed through daily life, shaped how children understood duty, beauty, and their place within the family. Even after lessons ended for the day, a child's education continued quietly, at the loom in the kitchen, beside a grandfather mending a net. Nothing about growing up in ancient Greece felt separated from the slow, steady rhythm of ordinary household life. Chapter 7: The Gods Who Watched Over Greek Hearths. Religion in ancient Greece touched nearly every part of ordinary household life. Hestia, goddess of the hearth, held a quiet, constant place within nearly every Greek home. A small flame was kept burning gently in her honor, believed to hold something of the family's own steady spirit. Meals often began with a small offering, a portion set aside quietly before the family ate together. Zeus Herkios, protector of the household courtyard, was honored with a small altar near the home's open central space. A herm, a carved stone pillar, often stood near the doorway, believed to offer quiet protection to those who passed beneath it. Births, marriages, and safe homecomings were marked with a short, familiar household prayer. Children learned these prayers early, repeating the soft, familiar words beside a parent or grandparent. In the country house, a second small shrine stood beneath the old olive tree, honoring the same household gods in a quieter, more rustic form. Ancestors, too, were honored, remembered through small offerings left quietly at the household shrine. Death did not end a person's place within the family. It simply changed the gentle shape of their presence. This closeness between the living and the departed shaped how Greek families understood their own quiet continuity. Faith, woven gently into daily routine, rarely felt separate from the ordinary business of living. A traveler leaving home might pause briefly at the household altar before setting out on a long journey. This small, unhurried pause was believed to carry real protection for whatever lay softly ahead. Even the busiest household found a moment for this quiet, familiar ritual. It reminded every family that even the most ordinary day carried within it a small, sacred rhythm. Faith, in this gentle way, moved quietly through nearly every corner of daily Greek life. Part 2, Love and the Gamos. Chapter 8, The Meaning of Marriage in Greek Life. Marriage in ancient Greece was treated as a serious, careful foundation of family and household. For families of means, a marriage might also join two fortunes, two estates, two names already known across the city and its surrounding countryside. It joined not only two people, but two households, two names, two futures folded gently into one. An agreement called the engai was made between families, often while the bride herself was still quite young. Yet real affection, respect, and quiet companionship still grew steadily inside many of these arranged unions. A young woman might marry in her early to mid-teenage years, guided closely by her father and her family. Men typically married later, once they had found some steady footing in their own household or trade. The bride spent her final days at home preparing quietly, bathed in water carried specially from a sacred spring. This ritual bath was believed to cleanse and bless her, readying her gently for the new life ahead. Friends and family gathered on the wedding day, offering blessings, soft songs, and warm, familiar words of encouragement. A wedding feast followed at the bride's own home, simple food shared among family, neighbors, and close friends. Then, as evening settled fully over the city, the true heart of the ceremony would slowly begin. In many marriages, Both husband and wife came to share real respect for the running of their household together. Marriage was expected to bring children, seen as essential to a family's continuing future. Yet inscriptions and old verses alike reveal genuine warmth between many husbands and wives. One old grave marker simply calls a wife beloved, gentle, and deeply, deeply missed by all who knew her. Beneath its formal shape, Greek marriage often held real partnership and a quiet, growing warmth. Chapter 9. Gamos, the Wedding Night Procession. Now picture the evening itself, the sky above deepening slowly into a rich, quiet violet. Tonight's bride comes from that same family of landowners, raised among olive groves and vineyards in the quiet hills of Attica. Her husband waits in Athens, the son of an old and settled city family, their name known gently among the merchants near the harbor. For this reason, tonight's procession will be a long one, beginning in the countryside and ending, many slow hours later, within the city itself. Inside the country house, small oil lamps have just been lit, their flames trembling gently against the plastered walls. The bride waits in her finest tunic, pale linen dyed the softest saffron, its folds catching the low light as she moves. A thin veil covers her hair, and a crown of small woven flowers rests just above her brow. Outside in the courtyard, torches are being lit, one by one, their flames catching with a soft, steady hiss. The warm scent of burning oil drifts through the evening air, mixing with crushed myrtle leaves scattered along the doorway. Somewhere close, a flute begins to play, a slow, low melody rising gently into the cooling night. This is the hour of the procession, when the bride is carried gently from her family's country home toward her husband's house in the city. She steps into a small cart drawn by a single, patient horse, torchlight flickering steadily all around her. Family and neighbors follow behind on foot, singing softly, their voices low and warm beneath the flickering torchlight. The road stretches long ahead of them, the same quiet road the family travels each summer, though tonight it feels entirely new. The hymeneos, the wedding song, rises and falls gently, its old, familiar melody carried from field to field. Olive trees pass slowly on either side, their silver leaves catching brief flashes of torchlight as the procession moves onward. Cicadas fall silent gradually as the procession passes, then resume their steady hum once the torches have moved beyond them. The scent of incense drifts from a small clay burner carried near the front, sweet and faintly smoky, mixing with the cooler night air. Overhead, the stars gather slowly, scattered across a sky already deepening toward full, unhurried night. For hours, the only sounds are the cart's slow wheels, the soft wedding song, and the steady rhythm of walking feet. The countryside gives way gradually to familiar farmland, then to the first scattered houses at the city's edge. Lamps begin to appear in windows as the procession enters the quieter streets of Athens, neighbors stepping out briefly to watch them pass. At last, deep into the night, they reach the groom's house, its doorway lit warmly from within, waiting to welcome her. The bride is lifted gently over the threshold, a soft old custom believed to protect her first steps into her new life. Inside, the household gathers close, torches lowered now, the room settling into a warmer, quieter light. A final blessing is spoken softly over the couple, asking the gods for a long, peaceful, and fertile life together. Nuts and dried fruit are scattered gently at their feet, a small wish for sweetness in the years ahead. The music fades slowly, the guests begin to slip quietly away, and the newlywed home settles into its first shared night. Somewhere behind them, far along the road they traveled, the country house stands dark and quiet, its own long night just beginning. Let this image rest with you now, a long torchlit road, a soft wedding song, and two lives folding gently into one. Chapter 10. Words of love written and whispered. Greek poets wrote openly of love, of longing, and of the quiet ache of missing someone dear. Even a marriage arranged carefully between two families of standing could grow slowly into something that resembled these old, familiar verses. Their words, though ancient, describe feelings that still feel close, familiar, and easy to recognize. Some verses captured the simple pleasure of an evening spent beside a warm, familiar fire. Others expressed the soft sorrow of waiting for someone to return safely across a long, uncertain distance. Love was often compared to gentle, natural things, moonlight on still water, or a low wind moving through olive leaves. Ordinary people expressed affection too, through small tokens, spoken blessings, and short messages scratched onto broken pottery. A husband away on a trading voyage might send word home simply wishing his wife good health and easy days. A wife might reply in turn, describing small household news and her quiet hope for his safe return. These small, ordinary words remind us that love needed no grand display to feel completely real. Small gifts, ribbons, a carved wooden comb, or a small clay figure were common and treasured tokens of affection. Wealthier couples exchanged finely made rings or pendants, engraved with a small, private symbol. Public affection stayed modest, yet private tenderness clearly lived inside these quiet homes. A married couple might be shown carved gently into stone, hands resting together, side by side forever. That small carved gesture has quietly outlasted the very city that first gave it shape. Love, it seems, needed no monument at all, only patience and a slow, steady kind of devotion. Chapter 11. A mother's words to her daughter. Let us imagine, softly, a mother speaking quietly to her daughter on the eve of her wedding. They sit together in the gynaeceum of the country house, a single lamp casting warm, low light across the room. Through the small window behind them, the dark shapes of olive trees sway faintly against a star-filled sky. Tomorrow, this same daughter will travel the long road to Athens, leaving these familiar groves for an unfamiliar city home. She begins gently, telling her daughter that fear on a night like this is nothing to be ashamed of. She recalls softly her own wedding night, the torches, the flute music, the strange new quiet of an unfamiliar home. She tells her daughter that love rarely arrives all at once, that it grows slowly, like a garden tended with patience. She describes small, ordinary comforts, warm bread shared in the morning, a hand offered during a difficult afternoon. She reminds her daughter to be patient with her new household, and patient, too, with herself. She speaks of her own mother and her mother before her, each one offering these same soft words in turn in this very room. The lamp between them burns low, and for a while neither of them speaks at all. The silence itself feels full, warm, and entirely enough. Finally, she takes her daughter's hands in her own and simply holds them, saying nothing further. This quiet moment, repeated across countless households and countless generations, rarely appears in any written record. Yet it may be one of the truest, most tender traditions any Greek family ever kept. No formal record preserves these quiet, late-night conversations, only the soft, imagined echo of countless mothers doing the same. Perhaps some version of these same gentle words was spoken, in one form or another, in nearly every home preparing for a wedding. Chapter 12. Growing old together. Long marriages were regarded with quiet admiration throughout the ancient Greek world. Couples who remained together for decades were praised gently for loyalty, patience, and quiet steadiness. The couple whose wedding we witnessed earlier, the daughter of the country estate and the son of an old Athens family, would one day become just such an example to their own grandchildren. Some old grave markers celebrate marriages lasting 40 years, 50 years or more, side by side. These inscriptions describe a shared life built on familiar routine, and a comfort earned slowly over time. Growing old together meant sharing both hardship and the slow, gathered comfort of long companionship. Couples supported one another through illness of the mildest kind, through loss, and through the soft changes that age brings. Daily routines stayed familiar, offering comfort through long, well-worn habits shared between two people. Evenings together often meant simple conversation, or an easy, comfortable silence that needed no filling. Grandchildren brought fresh joy, softening the harder edges of growing older. Elderly couples often guided younger relatives with calm, quietly earned wisdom. Greek writers sometimes reflected warmly on the comfort of long companionship, valuing trust above any early, fleeting passion. A long shared life let two people understand each other deeply, often without needing many words at all. A shared glance across a quiet room could carry the full weight of many accumulated years. Aging together was seen not as decline, but as a closeness that had been slowly, patiently earned. Beneath the formal customs of their world, this quiet devotion remained genuinely, deeply human. Love, sustained gently over decades, became its own quiet and lasting achievement. Part 3. The Rhythm of Daily Life. Chapter 13. Morning at the Agora. Picture the city waking now, the sky above softening from deep blue into the palest early gray. Athens stirs slowly, in that quiet hour before the sun fully clears the eastern hills. Somewhere across the city, in the marble hall of that same merchant family's home, a servant is already opening the shutters to let in the first gray light. Bakers light their ovens before dawn, filling the narrow streets with the warm, familiar smell of rising bread. Vendors arrange their stalls along the open square, calling out prices in an easy, unhurried morning rhythm. Fresh olives, soft cheese, and fish still glistening from the harbor arrive early from the surrounding countryside. Shoppers move slowly between the stalls, greeting familiar faces, trading small pieces of morning news. Coins pass quietly between hands, alongside a gentle, well-practiced bargaining over price. The Agora is more than a marketplace. It is the true beating center of the city's daily conversation. Neighbors share small kindnesses here, waiting patiently together in the soft morning light. Craftsmen display their goods nearby: pottery, sandals, small tools, and lengths of woven cloth. Old men gather beneath the shaded colonnades, talking slowly, unhurried by the passing of the morning hours. Somewhere nearby, a philosopher and a small circle of listeners sit quietly beneath an olive tree, their voices low and thoughtful. By midday, the busiest stalls begin to quiet, as families drift homeward for their afternoon meal. The Agora rests briefly during the warmest hours, its stones absorbing the sun in patient stillness. This daily rhythm, familiar and unhurried, shapes the true pulse of ordinary Athenian life. It is where strangers become familiar faces, and daily needs meet daily community. This simple, steady exchange of goods and quiet words forms the true heartbeat of the city. By the time the sun stands directly overhead, most of the morning's real business has already quietly concluded. The Agora rests then, its stones warm and empty, waiting patiently for tomorrow's early, familiar rhythm to begin again. Chapter 14. Olives, bread, and the comfort of a shared table. Food held real, quiet importance in Greek life, both for nourishment and for gentle connection. In the wealthier households, meals might include more variety, yet the ritual of gathering together remained exactly the same. Bread formed the foundation of most meals, simple, round, and shared by rich and poor alike. Olive oil touched nearly everything: cooking, lamps, and even the careful oiling of skin after a warm bath. Wine, mixed gently with water, accompanied most meals across every household in the city. Vegetables, lentils, onions, and simple greens formed the quiet base of everyday cooking. Meat appeared less often for ordinary families, saved mostly for festivals and special shared occasions. Fish, plentiful near the coast, offered an easy and familiar source of daily nourishment. Cheese, made from goat or sheep milk, added a simple richness to otherwise plain meals. Meals were often eaten together, seated on simple stools gathered closely around a low shared table. The evening meal was usually the calmest of the day, families gathering quietly as the light outside faded. Families shared food, small news, and easy, unhurried conversation as the evening settled around them. Fruit, figs, grapes, and pears offered a sweet, gentle close to almost any meal. Honey served as the primary sweetener, drizzled softly over warm cakes and simple evening treats. Sharing food was an act of quiet hospitality, never taken lightly, never rushed. Guests were offered bread, wine, and a comfortable place to sit and simply rest a while. This simple daily ritual quietly bound families and neighbors together, meal after gentle meal. Even a modest meal, shared slowly and without hurry, felt like something worth being grateful for. The table itself, more than any single dish upon it, was where a family's quiet closeness truly gathered each evening. Chapter 15. The Gynaeceum and the Baths, Rest for Body and Mind. Bathing and gentle exercise in Greek life meant far more than simple daily cleanliness. The gymnasium offered a shaded, open space for running, wrestling, and unhurried physical training. Olive oil was rubbed gently onto the skin before exercise, then carefully scraped away afterward with a curved tool called a strigil. Public baths, simpler than those built by later civilizations, offered warm water and a place for easy, familiar conversation. Friends met there regularly, discussing small business, family news, and the quiet, unremarkable events of the day. Bathing was affordable for most citizens, a simple, expected part of daily rhythm rather than any luxury. Men often gathered at the gymnasium in the cooler morning hours, before the sun grew too warm overhead. The sound of water, low conversation, and slow, unhurried footsteps filled these calm, familiar spaces. For many, this daily ritual offered a rare, unhurried pocket of stillness within a busy day. It gave tired muscles, tired minds, and tired hearts a gentle chance to finally settle. Philosophers often taught here too, walking slowly alongside their students beneath the shaded colonnades. Learning and rest, in this quiet way, moved gently side by side within the same familiar space. This shared, everyday comfort reminds us how deeply rest was valued throughout the Greek world. A visit to the baths often marked the calm, natural close of the working day. Afterward, a person might walk home slowly, skin still warm, muscles finally loose and unhurried. This daily transition from labor to rest felt as natural and expected as the setting sun itself. Chapter 16: Clothing, Comfort, and Personal Care. Greek clothing reflected both simple practicality and a quiet, understated sense of personal care. A wealthier family might own finer, softer linen, dyed in gentle, muted colors, though the basic shapes remained the same for everyone. Most people wore a chiton, a simple rectangle of linen or wool, pinned gently at the shoulders. A hamadeion, a longer cloak, was worn over the chiton for warmth, or draped for a more formal occasion. Women often wore a peplos, a heavier woolen garment folded and pinned with quiet, practiced ease. Clothing was usually made at home, spun and woven patiently by the women of the household. Wool suited the cooler months, while lighter linen offered comfort through the warmth of a Greek summer. Sandals were the most common footwear, simple leather soles tied comfortably around the ankle. Personal grooming mattered gently, with real care given to hair, skin, and simple daily comfort. Olive oil, scented softly with herbs or flowers, was used by both men and women after bathing. A small bronze mirror allowed for careful, unhurried preparation in the quiet hours of morning. Jewelry, though modest for most families, included simple rings, pins, and small carved pendants. Clothing was mended with quiet care, valued for its steady use rather than for its newness. Modesty and neatness were generally respected, reflecting a family's calm, understated pride. Even simple garments carried meaning, expressing identity and the quiet, practical needs of daily life. Beneath its social meaning, Greek clothing stayed grounded firmly in comfort and familiar habit. Chapter 17: Craftsmen, Trade, and the Working Day. Greek cities depended on the steady, patient work of skilled craftsmen and traders. Not every family lived by farming or by trade alone. Some, like the wealthy household at the center of tonight's story, employed craftsmen directly, potters and weavers whose work filled the family's own storerooms. Workshops lined the busy streets, filled with the low, familiar sound of hammers, looms, and careful hands. Potters shaped clay into jars, cups, and the painted vessels for which their cities would long be remembered. Weavers produced cloth for tunics, blankets, and the many soft coverings needed within a household. Carpenters built furniture, doors, and simple wooden fittings for homes both grand and humble. Many trades passed quietly from parent to child, learned through years of patient, repeated practice. A typical working day began early and paused gently during the warmest hours of the afternoon. Workshops often opened directly onto the street, welcoming curious neighbors and passing conversation. Craftsmen took real, quiet pride in their skill, often marking their finished work in some small way. Apprentices learned slowly, mastering a trade beneath a careful, patient, watchful eye. Trade extended far beyond the city itself, connecting distant islands and coastal towns through shared goods. Ships carried olive oil, wine, and painted pottery across calm, familiar Aegean waters. Merchants sometimes traveled for many months, carrying news and small gifts home upon their safe return. This steady, patient economy of skilled labor met the daily needs of the entire community. Behind every meal, every garment, every home stood countless hours of quiet, careful work. A craftsman's reputation was built slowly, one satisfied neighbor at a time, never rushed, never forced. This steady, patient trust between craftsman and customer formed its own quiet thread through the city's daily life. Chapter 18: The Potter's Wheel. Follow the narrow lane now, down toward the edge of the city where the potters keep their workshops. Here, the air smells of wet earth, cool and mineral, mixed faintly with wood smoke from a nearby kiln. A potter sits at his wheel, his foot moving in a slow, steady rhythm against the ground below. The wheel turns low and constant, a soft, continuous hum beneath his careful, waiting hands. A lump of clay sits at its center, gray and glistening, still shapeless, still full of quiet possibility. He wets his fingers in a small bowl of water, then presses them gently against the spinning clay. Watch as it rises slowly beneath his palms, taller, then narrower, then curving gently outward again. The sound is soft and wet, a low, rhythmic whisper, thumb and clay and turning wheel together. He works unhurried, his eyes half closed, trusting his hands more than his sight in this familiar motion. A small ridge appears where his fingers pause, then smooths away again beneath his patient, steady touch. Nearby, finished pots wait in careful rows, some plain, some already painted with slow, deliberate patterns. The kiln glows faintly in the corner, its warmth reaching gently across the room like a held breath. This vessel will hold oil or wine or grain, though tonight it is simply becoming itself, slowly, patiently. The wheel continues turning, low and steady, its quiet hum filling the small workshop completely. There is nowhere to rush toward here, only this slow shaping, thread by thread of wet, yielding clay. Let that same slow turning settle in you now, round and round, unhurried, patient, and complete. Chapter 19: Courtyards, Gardens, and the Pleasure of Green Spaces. Beyond the busy Agora, many families kept a small courtyard shaded gently by a single olive or fig tree. Wealthier households, families such as the one whose home we have already visited, sometimes kept a larger country estate, offering quiet retreat from the noise of the city. These country homes often combined small working farmland with a carefully tended garden close by. Gardens held herbs, small fruit trees, and shaded paths suited to a slow, unhurried afternoon walk. Even a modest city courtyard might hold a small clay pot of fresh mint or rosemary. These herbs were grown for both quiet cooking and gentle, familiar home remedies. Gardens offered a natural place for conversation, reading, or simply sitting still beneath dappled afternoon light. Birdsong and the low hum of cicadas gave these small green spaces a restful, familiar quality. Country life often followed the slower, gentler rhythm of the farming seasons around it. Families oversaw the planting, the tending, and the quiet daily care of their small flock of goats or sheep. Children explored these small orchards, learning early the patience that growing things quietly requires. Writers often praised country life for its calm, its gentle distance from the noise of the city. Even a simple family plot was loved deeply, tied closely to the daily rhythm of survival. Gardens, grand or humble, offered a living, breathing reminder of nature's own steady patience. An evening spent among fig trees and herbs asked nothing of a person, only presence and a willingness to sit still. Many families considered this quiet hour among the most valuable, unhurried part of their entire day. At Chapter 20, Farms, Seasons, and the Rhythm of the Land. Agriculture formed the true, quiet foundation, both economic and emotional, of the ancient Greek world. Olives, grapes, and grain were among the most widely grown and deeply valued crops. Spring brought planting, summer brought careful tending, and autumn brought the long, patient work of harvest. Winter offered a slower season, kept gently for repair, rest, and quiet household preparation. Families worked together at harvest, gathering the olive crop before the season's weather could threaten it. Grapes were pressed slowly for wine, their sweet, heavy scent filling the autumn air for days. Olives were pressed carefully for their rich, golden oil, a treasure central to nearly every meal. Neighbors often helped one another during the heaviest days of the harvest season. A good harvest brought modest comfort, while a poor one brought real, quiet hardship. Farmers left small offerings at the household shrine, hoping gently for a healthy, abundant crop. Rural festivals celebrated the planting and the harvest, blending gratitude with warm, familiar community gathering. Even city-dwelling families stayed closely tied to this steady, unhurried agricultural rhythm. Warmer months brought long, busy days, and cooler months brought a welcome, well-earned rest. Bread on every table represented countless hours of quiet, unseen rural labor. This deep connection to the land shaped a patience built slowly, from long-lived experience. The turning of the seasons remained, in truth, the real and steady heartbeat of Greek life. Chapter 21, The Journey to the Country House. As the worst of the summer heat settles over Athens, this same family begins its slow, familiar journey toward the countryside. Their country house lies half a day's travel beyond the city, nestled among the family's own olive groves and vineyards. The cart is loaded gently in the late afternoon. Baskets, blankets, and small jars of oil tied carefully in place. 2 horses wait patiently in the harness, their tails flicking slowly against the day's last lingering warmth. The family departs as the sun begins its slow descent, the light turning gradually from white to gold. Listen now to the sound of the wheels, a slow, steady creak, rolling gently over the packed dirt road. The rhythm settles quickly into something almost musical, wheel and stone, wheel and stone, again and again. A light wind moves across the open fields, carrying the dry, sweet scent of late summer grass. Cicadas begin their evening chorus, a steady, layered hum rising from the fields on either side of the road. The city falls slowly behind them, its rooftops softening into distant shapes beneath the reddening sky. Olive trees appear gradually along the roadside, their silver leaves catching the low, slanting evening light. The children doze against their mother's shoulder, lulled by the cart's slow, unhurried motion. Someone hums quietly, barely audible above the wheels and the wind and the distant, steady insects. The road narrows slowly as the countryside deepens around them, hills rising gently on either side. The rhythmic creak of the wheels slows gradually, matching the slower pace the horses adopt on the final stretch of road. At last, the country house comes into view, its pale walls glowing faintly in the day's final light. Smoke rises softly from its chimney. Someone has already prepared the hearth for their arrival. The cart slows, then stops, and for a moment no one moves at all, simply listening to the sudden quiet. Only the wind remains now, moving softly through the olive leaves, welcoming them gently home. Chapter 22: Figs, Olives, and Wine at the Edge of the Sea. Later that same evening, the family gathers on the wide stone veranda of their country house. From here, the land falls away gently toward the coast, and beyond it, the dark, endless expanse of the Aegean Sea. The last light of day lingers low on the water, a thin band of gold fading slowly into deep blue. A low table has been set with simple, unhurried food, fresh figs split open to reveal their soft, dark centers. A small dish holds olives from their own trees, glistening faintly with oil in the fading light. Wine has been mixed carefully with water, poured into shallow cups that catch the day's last warmth. No one speaks for a while, content simply to watch the horizon soften from gold to violet to gray. A fig is lifted slowly, unhurried, its sweetness lingering pleasantly before anyone feels the need to speak. The father breaks the silence eventually, his voice low, remarking gently on the quality of this year's harvest. His wife agrees quietly, her eyes still resting on the darkening line where sea meets sky. Their eldest daughter traces the rim of her cup slowly, listening more than speaking, content in the stillness. A cool breeze rises from the water, carrying the faint scent of salt mixed with warm, dry earth. Somewhere below, cicadas continue their steady evening hum, softening gradually as true darkness settles in. The conversation drifts slowly, unhurried, touching lightly on small matters, tomorrow's work, a neighbor's new vineyard, nothing urgent. Long pauses stretch comfortably between each remark, no one feeling any need to fill them. A single lamp is lit behind them, its warm light spilling softly across the stone floor of the veranda. The sea beyond has turned fully dark now, marked only by the faint, silver reflection of a rising moon. No one moves to light a second lamp. The darkness itself feels comfortable, familiar, unhurried. The youngest child has fallen asleep against her mother's arm, a half-eaten fig still resting in her open palm. This is how such families spent their quietest evenings, full stomachs, low voices, and the whole wide sea stretched out before them. Let this same slow, unhurried peace settle over you now, figs and olives and wine, and the sound of a distant, endless tide. And Chapter 23, A Festival Beneath the Stars. Picture now a warm evening in late summer when the whole neighborhood gathers near the temple steps. Torches line the pathway, their flames swaying gently in the soft evening air. Somewhere close, a flute begins to play, joined slowly by the low, steady beat of a hand drum. Families spread woven blankets across the grass, settling comfortably beneath a sky already thick with stars. Children run between the gathered families, their laughter soft and distant, carried gently on the warm night air. Small clay lamps flicker along the temple steps, their flames multiplying like scattered earthbound stars. The scent of roasting grain and warm honey cakes drifts slowly through the gathered crowd. An old woman begins to sing, her voice low and steady, joined gradually by others nearby. Dancers move slowly in a wide, unhurried circle, their steps simple, repeated, easy to follow. No one rushes here. The dance continues at its own gentle pace, circling softly beneath the stars. Wine mixed with water is passed quietly between neighbors, shared in small clay cups. An old man tells a story to a circle of children, his voice rising and falling like the flute nearby. The night deepens slowly, the music softening gradually as the hour grows late. One by one, families begin the slow walk home, torches lighting their way through familiar streets. Children sleep already in their parents' arms, lulled gently by music, warmth, and the low murmur of voices. This is how a Greek city marked its calendar, not with hurry, but with music, food, and unhurried togetherness. Let this same warm gathering settle in your mind now. Torchlight, soft music, and the gentle circle of a dance. Part 4, Family and Quiet Feeling. Chapter 24, Herbs, Healing, and the Family's Quiet Care. Caring for a tired or unwell family member was a familiar, gentle part of Greek daily life. Households kept simple herbal remedies close at hand: chamomile, mint, and honey among the most trusted. A mother might prepare a warm drink for a restless child, humming softly as she stirred it slowly. Physicians existed in most cities, their knowledge passed carefully from teacher to student across many years. Rest, warm broth, and a familiar bed were often considered the gentlest and most reliable remedy of all. Some families made a quiet journey to a healing sanctuary, seeking rest, clean air, and peace of mind. These sanctuaries were peaceful places, filled with gardens, soft fountains, and the low murmur of birds overhead. Visitors slept there sometimes, believing that calm, restorative dreams might guide them gently toward better health. Family gathered close during any difficult moment, offering comfort and quiet, steady support. A parent might sit for a long while beside a resting child, simply humming until the child's breathing slowed. Care for a tired household member usually fell gently to the women of the family. This attentive, everyday care reflects a deeply human, deeply familiar response to worry and uncertainty. A neighbor might quietly bring a small remedy that had once soothed her own family. Such small kindnesses, freely offered, formed a real, informal comfort shared across an entire street. This attentive rhythm of quiet care remains one of the gentlest threads running through Greek family life. Chapter 25: The Household Slave and the Complicated Truth of Greek Life. Any honest account of Greek daily life must include the presence of enslaved people within it. Slavery was deeply woven into Greek society, present in households across nearly every social class. A family as prosperous as the one whose home we have visited relied on enslaved labor both in the city and across their country estate. Enslaved individuals performed a wide range of household, farm, and skilled daily labor. Their experiences varied greatly, shaped by the household, the region, and simple, unpredictable circumstance. Some worked within a single home for many years, their lives becoming closely bound to that family's own. Greek law treated them as property, though the daily social reality was often more layered and complicated. Some gained real trust and quiet responsibility within the households where they lived and worked. Pedagogos, though enslaved, often held a position of real closeness within the family he served. Freedom, though not common, was granted in certain cases, allowing a person to build a new, independent life. It is important to view this history honestly, without softening its very real hardship. It is equally important to recognize the humanity present within these difficult, complicated circumstances. Many households depended heavily on enslaved labor for their daily comfort and survival. A large estate such as the one we have visited would have relied on many hands in the fields, in the kitchen, and in the weaving room. We include this history not to dwell in sorrow, but to remember it honestly and completely. True understanding of the past requires both its warmth and its harder, more difficult truths. Chapter 26: Sailors, Merchants, and Letters from Distant Shores. Trade shaped daily life for countless Greek families, scattered across the wide Aegean coastline. The same merchant family whose home we have visited built part of its quiet fortune on this steady maritime trade. Olive oil and fine painted pottery carried outward, wool and dye carried home. Merchants and sailors often journeyed for many months, carrying goods between distant islands and coastal towns. Letters between these travelers and their families reveal steady affection despite the long, uncertain distance. A sailor might write in a careful hand, simply describing calm seas and a hope for a swift, safe return. Families waited patiently, often uncertain when the next word from a distant harbor might finally arrive. Some carried a small personal token with them, a woven bracelet or a small carved shell from home. These journeys brought travelers into contact with unfamiliar islands, customs, and distant, curious shores. Many merchants eventually settled in these distant harbors, building new, quiet lives far from home. This slow movement of people helped spread Greek customs gently across the wider Mediterranean world. Family reunions after a long voyage were remembered with real warmth and quiet, grateful relief. Not every voyage ended safely, and coastal communities sometimes carried a soft, lasting grief for those lost at sea. These simple letters reveal the quiet emotional cost hidden behind even the most ordinary trading voyage. They remind us that behind every departing ship stood countless waiting, hopeful families. Even far from home, travelers longed for the same small, familiar comforts as everyone else. Chapter 27: A Sailor's Return Home. Let us imagine, gently, a sailor finally returning home after many months away at sea. Perhaps he sails on behalf of that same merchant family, entrusted with a cargo of olive oil bound for distant harbors. The harbor road stretches long and familiar, leading slowly toward a remembered, well-loved house. His steps grow lighter as familiar rooftops come slowly, gently into view. Neighbors notice him first, calling out warmly, spreading soft word of his safe return. His family gathers quickly, moving toward the road with quiet, hopeful excitement. His mother reaches him first, holding him close, tears of relief gathering softly in her eyes. His wife waits nearby, calm on the surface, though clearly full of quiet, welling feeling. A child he barely remembers approaches carefully, curious about this returning, sun-browned stranger. He kneels down slowly, greeting them in a voice softened gently by emotion. The family walks home together, unhurried, savoring this long-awaited, quiet moment. That evening, the household shares a simple meal, marking his safe and welcome return. Neighbors stop by briefly, offering warm greetings before leaving the family in peaceful privacy. He offers only calm, gentle details of his journey, keeping the harder moments quietly to himself. His wife listens, grateful simply for his steady, familiar presence beside her once again. Later, the couple sits together, saying little content simply to be close once more. Outside, the same stars he watched from the deck of his ship now hang softly over his own roof. Years of distance slowly soften into the familiar shape of an ordinary, welcome routine. Chapter 28: The Elderly and the Wisdom of a Long Life. Growing old in ancient Greece carried both real respect and real, quiet hardship. Wealth eased some of this hardship, though even in the most comfortable households, age asked the same quiet patience of everyone. Elders were generally honored for their experience and for their steady, accumulated household wisdom. Grandparents often played an active part in raising the youngest members of the family. Their presence offered stability and a steady, gentle continuity within the family home. Old age also brought real challenges, including tiredness and a gentle, gradual loss of strength. Families were expected to care for their elderly relatives, a duty taken seriously and without complaint. This care reflected deep cultural values around loyalty and a quiet, steady gratitude. Many elderly people stayed active, offering guidance or light, familiar household work. Storytelling remained an important role, passing family history gently to the youngest listeners. Grandparents shared memories of simpler times during long, unhurried evenings beside the hearth. Philosophers often encouraged a calm acceptance of age, rather than any fear of it. They suggested that a life lived well brought peace, not dread, at its own quiet close. Family closeness remained essential, offering real comfort through the softer years of a long life. This steady bond between generations formed a lasting, gentle thread through Greek family life. Chapter 29: An Evening of Quiet Conversation. Picture a small room now, cushions arranged low around its edges, a single lamp burning warmly in the center. A handful of friends have gathered here this evening, reclining comfortably, unhurried, glad simply to be together. Wine is mixed carefully with water in a wide clay bowl, poured slowly into shallow cups. This is a symposium, though tonight it is simply old friends, sharing quiet thoughts as the evening deepens. A lyre rests nearby, played softly by whoever feels the gentle pull to fill the silence with music. Conversation moves slowly here, unhurried, drifting from small daily matters to softer, more thoughtful questions. Someone wonders aloud what makes a life feel well lived, and no one hurries to answer. The question is allowed to simply sit there, resting gently in the warm lamplight between them. Laughter rises occasionally, low and easy, followed by long, comfortable stretches of companionable quiet. Someone recites a few lines of old verse, his voice soft, unhurried, more felt than performed. The lamp burns lower as the evening continues, its light softening the edges of the whole small room. No one watches the hour. The evening simply unfolds at its own gentle, unmeasured pace. Eventually, the conversation quiets entirely, each friend content simply to sit in shared, easy silence. One by one, they rise to leave, embracing warmly, promising softly to gather again before long. Walking home beneath the stars, the warmth of the evening lingers, unhurried, settled, and complete. Chapter 30: Neighbors and the Bonds of Friendship. Friendship mattered deeply within the daily fabric of Greek community life. Even a family as comfortable as the one we have followed tonight depended on these same quiet, ordinary friendships with their neighbors. Neighbors often knew each other well, sharing tools, small favors, and easy daily conversation. Friends gathered casually in courtyards, at the Agora, and along familiar, well-worn streets. A true friend was expected to offer honesty, loyalty, and quiet, steady support. Friends stood by one another through hardship and through the small, ordinary losses of life. Shared meals were common, offered simply as a warm and quiet sign of ongoing friendship. Children formed early friendships through neighborhood games and shared daily chores. Trust between neighbors supported both emotional comfort and simple, everyday cooperation. Philosophers often wrote warmly of friendship as essential to a full and settled life. They believed shared goodness, rather than simple convenience, formed the truest and most lasting friendships. Two old friends might sit together for an hour, saying very little of any real importance. Their long, quiet history together spoke clearly enough in the simple fact of sitting close. These daily bonds softened hardship and added real, quiet warmth to ordinary Greek life. Chapter 31: Memory and the Gentle Rituals of Farewell. Loss was a familiar part of daily Greek life, faced gently by every family eventually. When a family member passed, the household observed careful, quiet mourning customs. The body was washed and dressed with quiet, careful attention by those who loved them. This gentle preparation, called the prothesis, allowed family and friends to say a slow, unhurried farewell. Family gathered close, offering comfort and a shared, quiet remembrance together. A procession moved slowly through the streets at dawn, accompanied by soft, low singing. Burial customs varied gently by city and by family tradition, though most included a final resting place outside the city walls. Grave markers often described the departed with real, quiet warmth and simple affection. A beloved wife might be remembered simply as gentle, faithful, and deeply, deeply missed. Families visited these resting places regularly, bringing small offerings and a few softly spoken words. A yearly festival called the Gynaeceum allowed families a structured, shared time of quiet remembrance. During it, families gathered near these resting places, honoring their ancestors together, quietly, gently. This practice reflected a belief that family bonds continued gently, even beyond loss itself. Grief was expressed openly, yet eased slowly by acceptance and by steady, familiar ritual. In time, even sorrow found its own quiet place within a family's steady, ongoing life. Part 5: The Greek Night. Chapter 32: The Sound of the City at Dusk. As the afternoon fades, picture Athens settling slowly into a softer, quieter rhythm. Market stalls close gently, vendors packing their goods with slow, practiced, unhurried motion. Families begin gathering, drawn homeward by the warm promise of a shared evening meal. Streets, once busy, grow quieter, filled with slower, softer footsteps against warm stone. Lamps are lit one by one, casting low, golden light through open doorways. The scent of cooking food drifts gently through narrow, familiar streets. Children are called home, their voices fading softly into gentler evening tones. Neighbors trade brief, warm farewells before slipping quietly into their own homes. Inside, families settle comfortably, sharing food and low, unhurried conversation. The busy rhythm of daylight slowly gives way to peaceful, restorative rest. This familiar shift marks the soft boundary between labor and quiet family time. It repeats, evening after evening, in every corner of the ancient world. Somewhere, a father sets down his tools, wiping his hands slowly on his tunic. Somewhere else, a mother lifts a drowsy child from where he fell asleep playing. Let this soft, familiar hour settle now gently around you as well. Chapter 33. The Sound of the Sea at Night. Picture now a small coastal village, its houses climbing gently up a low, dark hillside above the water. The sea below is calm tonight, its surface catching faint, scattered light from a sky full of quiet stars. Waves arrive slowly, one after another, a soft, steady rhythm against the pale sand below. Listen closely. That same sound has moved across these shores for longer than any city has stood. A small fishing boat rests on the beach, its wood creaking faintly as the tide moves gently beneath it. Somewhere nearby, a rope taps softly against a wooden mast, a slow, irregular, familiar sound. The air smells of salt and damp rope, and the faint smoke of a dying cooking fire. A fisherman's home sits quiet above the shore, a single lamp still burning low behind a small window. Inside, his wife mends a net by lamplight, her fingers moving slowly through familiar, practiced knots. Their children sleep already, lulled by the same steady waves that have always sung outside their window. The moon lays a long, pale path across the water, silver and unbroken, stretching toward some distant, unseen shore. Nothing hurries here. The sea does not rush. The tide simply arrives and recedes and arrives again. This same patient rhythm has soothed sailors and fishing families for longer than memory can hold. Let that same slow rhythm reach you now, wave after gentle wave, arriving and receding and arriving again. There is nothing to do but listen, and let the sound carry you gently towards sleep. Chapter 34. Winter and the Comfort of the Hearth. Winter brings a slower, softer rhythm to the whole of Greek family life. By this season, our merchant family has long since returned from their country house to the marble comfort of their Athens home. Cool mornings draw families closer around the warm, familiar household hearth. Woolen cloaks and heavy blankets offer comfort through the colder, shorter days. Farm work slows gently, allowing time for rest, repair, and quiet reflection. Evenings grow longer, filled with soft storytelling and low, comfortable firelight. A warm stew, simmered slowly, offers real comfort on a cool winter evening. Children spend more time indoors, playing quietly near the family hearth. Grandparents often tell their oldest, most familiar stories during these long, unhurried nights. Households store food carefully, relying on preserved olives, dried fruit, and stored grain. This careful planning reflects a patience built slowly from years of lived, seasonal experience. The hearth fire becomes a quiet symbol of safety and of lasting, gentle warmth. As winter slowly passes, families look softly ahead toward the coming spring. This yearly rhythm brings comfort through a change that always feels familiar and expected. By the fire's low light, an old story might be told for perhaps the 100th time. No one minds hearing it again. The familiarity itself is part of its quiet comfort. At Chapter 35, A Grandmother's Kitchen. Let us imagine a grandmother's kitchen inside a modest Greek home. Morning light spreads softly across worn stone counters and simple clay pots. She rises early, moving slowly, guided by decades of familiar, unhurried routine. Bread dough rests beneath a woven cloth, rising quietly in the warm morning air. Herbs hang drying near the window, filling the room with a soft, familiar fragrance. Her hands, steady despite her years, move with quiet, practiced ease. Grandchildren wander in, drawn gently by the comforting smell of baking bread. She hums an old, wordless tune, passed down softly through many generations. A pot of lentils simmers slowly, filling the room with warm, comforting steam. She pauses now and then, resting briefly, watching her family move gently about the room. Stories emerge naturally in these quiet moments, shared while her hands keep working. Recipes were rarely written down, passed instead through years of quiet watching and doing. Even simple meals carried real meaning, prepared slowly with real, unhurried care. As evening comes, the family gathers, drawn gently by these same familiar smells. This kitchen, though ordinary, held the true, quiet heart of an entire family's life. Such kitchens existed across every Greek city, each filled with the same steady, patient devotion. No feast in any grand household ever tasted quite like her simple evening stew. In Chapter 36, The Language of Silence and Rest. Not every part of Greek life was filled with talk or with steady daily activity. A midday pause allowed families a brief, welcome rest during the warmest hours. Gardens offered a place for quiet reflection, away from the low hum of household noise. Philosophers believed silence supported clearer, calmer thought than constant, hurried conversation. Even the busy Agora included brief pauses, small islands of stillness within a steady day. Evening meals sometimes ended in comfortable quiet, rather than in further conversation. This comfortable stillness reflected the deep, easy familiarity within a close family. Grandparents often sat for long stretches, simply enjoying familiar, unhurried surroundings. Silence was never seen as awkward, but as a natural, welcome part of the day. Prayer, too, often involved quiet, personal reflection rather than any spoken words at all. This appreciation for quiet balanced the louder, busier parts of daily Greek life. It allowed families simply to exist together, without needing constant words between them. Rest, even brief, was deeply valued throughout the whole gentle rhythm of Greek life. A house at rest, even briefly, seemed to breathe differently than a house at work. This was a kind of gentle daily rehearsal for the deeper stillness that would follow at night. Chapter 37. The Bath Before Sleep. Picture now the last hour before rest, when a mother prepares a small basin of warm water. Steam rises softly from the bowl, carrying the faint, warm scent of olive oil and dried chamomile. She washes a child's small hands and feet slowly, unhurried, her movements gentle and familiar. The water is warm, not hot, just enough to soften tired muscles and quiet a restless mind. A soft cloth is drawn slowly along small arms, along small shoulders, along a back already heavy with sleep. The child leans into her hands, eyes already half closed, breathing already beginning to slow. She hums quietly while she works, the same low tune she has hummed for years, wordless and familiar. Nearby, a small lamp burns low, its flame steady, its light gentle enough not to disturb drowsy eyes. Once clean, the child is wrapped in a soft woolen cloth, warm from sitting near the hearth. She carries the small, heavy weight toward the sleeping mat, laying it down with slow, careful hands. A light blanket is drawn up gently, tucked softly at the edges against the cool night air. This same quiet ritual repeats in countless homes tonight. Warm water, soft cloth, and a low, familiar hum. There is nothing hurried in this hour, only warmth and water, and hands moving with practiced care. Let this same warmth settle over you now, as though unseen hands were smoothing away the last of the day. Chapter 38. A Mother's Lullaby. In the Gynaeceum, the lamp has been turned down to its lowest, gentlest glow. Tonight, this is the same quiet room in the country house where, not long ago, a mother once spoke softly to her own daughter on the eve of her wedding. A mother sits beside a low bed, her daughter's small hand resting loosely inside her own. She begins to speak softly, not quite singing, not quite simply talking, somewhere gentle between the two. She tells of a goddess who once walked slowly through silver groves beneath a full and watchful moon. Her voice stays low, unhurried, each word arriving softly after the one before it. She describes the goddess pausing beside a quiet spring, listening to water moving gently over smooth, dark stones. Nothing frightening happens in this story. Only soft moonlight and slow footsteps and gentle, watchful silence. The goddess, she says, watches over sleeping children just as she once watched over the quiet forest itself. Her daughter's eyelids grow heavy, her breathing slowing to match the soft rhythm of her mother's voice. The mother continues anyway, even as she notices the change, her voice never rising, never hurrying forward. She describes stars scattered like small seeds of light across a wide, dark, peaceful sky. She describes a boat drifting slowly across still water, carried gently by a current too soft to feel. By now, her daughter's hand has gone fully soft and heavy, sleep having quietly claimed her. Still, the mother continues a moment longer, her voice softening further, the story trailing gently into silence. This same lullaby, or one much like it, was likely whispered in countless homes across the ancient world. Let its soft rhythm reach you now too, moonlight, water, and a voice that never once needs to hurry. Chapter 39: Hypnos and the Slow Descent into Greek Sleep. Night arrives slowly over the city now, the last light fading gently behind the hills. In the marble halls of that same merchant family's Athens home, the last servant is extinguishing the final lamp in the main hall. Oil lamps offer a low, flickering glow, their flames trembling faintly against the plastered walls. Most households settle early, following the simple, unhurried rhythm of darkness and rest. The ancient Greeks believed sleep itself was a gentle god named Hypnos, moving softly through every home. He was said to carry a small horn of soothing oil and a poppy stem, both symbols of quiet, restful ease. His son, Morpheus, was believed to shape the soft images that drift gently through a sleeping mind. A sleeping room was modest, furnished simply with a low bed and woven woolen blankets. Wealthier homes sometimes kept a separate room, offering a measure of quiet, private rest. Poorer families often slept close together, sharing warmth through the coolest hours of night. A restless evening was eased gently with a warm drink or a few softly spoken words of prayer. Streets grow still after dark, the city settling slowly into its own deep, familiar quiet. Families often close their day with soft, low conversation before falling gently silent. Children are told simple, gentle stories, easing them slowly, softly toward sleep. A parent's low voice, repeating a familiar tale, is often enough on its own. The story slows gradually, the details softening until the child's breathing deepens into sleep. Moonlight filters through small windows, laying soft, pale shapes across the quiet floor. Somewhere outside, a dog barks once faintly, then the street falls silent again. A distant cart's wheels fade slowly into the night, and then there is only stillness. The last lamp in the house is allowed to burn low, then lower still. Sleep was considered essential, gently restoring both body and mind for the coming morning. In this stillness, a mother checks once more on a sleeping child, then finally rests herself. A husband and wife lie quietly side by side, sharing warmth and a soft, comfortable silence. Their thoughts slow gradually, the day's small worries loosening their hold, one by one. Outside, the whole city seems to exhale, its hills and streets settling gently into the dark. Even the busiest Agora, so alive by day, lies now completely empty and completely still. Above it all, the same moon that watches you now once watched softly over ancient Greece. It watched over tired hands, quiet hearts, and homes finally settled into rest. As the last lamp fades, the house grows dark, warm, and completely, peacefully still. Let that same stillness settle now, gently, around you as you continue listening. There is nothing left to do tonight, nothing left to hold, only rest. Somewhere beneath these same soft stars, a Greek family once slept exactly as you do now. Let Hypnos carry you now, gently the way he carried them, slowly toward deep and peaceful sleep. Part 6. A Quiet Farewell. And Chapter 40. The Old Olive Tree. In the same quiet grove beyond the city, where this family's country house stood, one olive tree grew older than all the rest. Its branches, silver green, had grown slowly across many patient decades. The family who tended it had cared for its roots across several generations. Each autumn, they gathered gently beneath it to collect the ripened fruit. Children climbed its lower limbs, laughing softly beneath the dappled afternoon light. Grandparents rested nearby, remembering their own childhood beneath that very same tree. It had witnessed countless family meals, shared calmly in its cool, familiar shade. Its oil supported the family's cooking, lighting, and daily needs for generations. The olive tree itself was sacred, believed to be Athena's own gift to the city. Elders often compared its slow growth to family life, strong only through years of quiet care. They explained that, like the tree, a family grows steady through patient, daily attention. In many ways, it mirrored the quiet resilience of the family itself. Such trees, humble yet lasting, quietly outlasted cities, seasons, and centuries. Long after the family itself was gone, someone else's children still played beneath it. Its roots reached deep beneath the very cart path that had once carried a bride toward her new home in the city. Perhaps that quiet, unhurried permanence is part of what made it feel so peaceful. Chapter 41. One final walk through the Agora. Let us walk once more slowly through the heart of this old and gentle city. Somewhere near the edge of the Agora stands a modest storeroom belonging to that same merchant family, its shelves lined quietly with jars of their own olive oil. Morning light spreads across worn stone, softened by centuries of quiet, familiar footsteps. Market stalls are opening slowly, filled with familiar, comforting sound. A baker calls out gently, offering fresh bread still warm from the oven. A mother guides her small child carefully through the gathering morning crowd. An old man rests on a stone bench, watching the city slowly, gently wake. Two friends greet each other warmly, pausing for a few quiet, unhurried words. The scent of bread, olive oil, and fresh herbs drifts softly through the morning air. Children run past, laughing, chasing one another around the old, sun-warmed columns. This is not a story of great thinkers or of distant wars, only of an ordinary, unhurried morning. Behind every doorway lies a family, a routine, a small and familiar history. Centuries rise and fade, yet mornings like this quietly continued again and again. As we leave this gentle scene, let us carry its calm, familiar rhythm with us. The bread will still be warm tomorrow. The friends will still greet each other kindly. This old world, in its quiet way, never really vanished. It simply changed its shape. Chapter 42. The Old Nurse's Watch. In the quietest hour of the night, an old household nurse still moves gently through the sleeping home. She has cared for this family for longer than anyone still awake can properly remember. Her steps are slow now, careful, familiar with every uneven stone in the darkened courtyard. She checks each room quietly, pausing only long enough to listen for the soft, even sound of breathing. A blanket has slipped from a small shoulder, and she draws it back gently, without waking the sleeper beneath it. She pauses beside the household shrine, whispering a brief, familiar prayer for the family's continued safety. The hearth fire has settled to embers, glowing faintly orange in the otherwise darkened room. She adds a single small piece of wood, just enough to keep a whisper of warmth until morning. Outside, the courtyard is silent, the old olive tree standing quiet and still beneath the stars. She has kept this same gentle watch for so many years that her body finds the path without her thinking. Satisfied that the household rests safely, she returns to her own low bed near the kitchen. Her own eyes grow heavy quickly now, the day's small tasks finally, fully complete. Somewhere above the courtyard, the same stars that have always watched this house continue their own slow, silent turning. The whole household breathes together now, unseen, unhurried, entirely at peace. Let her same slow, careful watchfulness settle gently over you now, as you too drift toward rest. Chapter 43. The Quiet Legacy of Ordinary Hands. Most people in ancient Greece never became philosophers or generals or statesmen. Even a family of quiet wealth, such as the one we have followed tonight, measured its truest riches in ordinary things: a full table, a healthy child, an olive harvest safely gathered. Instead, they baked bread, wove cloth, tended olive trees, and raised their children gently. Their names rarely survive, yet their quiet effort shaped an entire, lasting civilization. A farmer's labor supported a city he would likely never fully understand himself. A weaver's careful work clothed generations she would never fully know. A mother's patient teaching shaped values carried forward for many, many years to come. This quiet legacy deserves gentle remembrance alongside history's more famous, more familiar names. Ordinary life, patiently lived, remains history's truest and most lasting foundation. This truth connects us softly to those distant, quiet Greek households. Their steady, patient humanity still speaks quietly across all these many centuries. As you rest now, let that quiet voice be the last thing you hear tonight. Somewhere, a version of that same quiet devotion continues even now, gently, in your own life. It asks only patience, presence, and a willingness to care for ordinary, daily things. Chapter 44. A Quiet Farewell. Our slow walk through this hidden, gentle side of ancient Greece comes softly to its end. We have followed one family, wealthy in land and in quiet love, from their marble home in Athens to their olive groves above the sea. We began beneath a quiet crescent moon, and we return there now, one final time. Inside a modest home, a family rests together, warm, safe, and completely content. We have visited courtyards, kitchens, weddings, and the quiet comfort of a long life shared. We have listened to sailors, grandmothers, and mothers within warm, familiar rooms. Love found its way through small gestures, and even loss was eased by gathered family. This shared humanity connects us softly across thousands of years and countless quiet miles. There is comfort in this continuity, in knowing our own lives echo something lasting. As you rest now, let the scent of warm bread and olive oil linger a little longer. Let the quiet warmth of a shared table ease whatever the day has left behind. There is nothing more to remember tonight, nothing more to hold, only rest. The old paths continue on, unchanging, carrying their story softly into the night. Let Hypnos carry you now, slowly, toward deep, full, and completely peaceful sleep. Rest well, exactly as countless Greek families once did, beneath that same quiet, ancient sky. Good night.